Welcome back to the Midnight Who Show. Happy Doctor Who Day! Seriously, Doctor Who turns 57 this year. Can you believe it? And today we're going to be reviewing two things in the Time Lord Victorious saga. The first one is right now, with the second episode of the Daleks animated series, the Time Lord Victorious saga, and this is the Sentinel of the Fifth Galaxy. And I think this story is even better than the first one. You know, the first one was definitely kind of like the first episode, kind of introducing things. But I really enjoyed this story. It just has a lot more kind of action to it in a way. And it's kind of very interesting to see Daleks on Daleks fighting each other, because the Daleks soon become infected by the entity which is chasing them throughout the galaxy. I really enjoyed we get to see Skaro, which is really, really cool to see that again. I will say the main problem still continues, the animation. It's definitely not the best part of the story. But, you know, it's a free thing on YouTube. What can you complain about? I will say I really enjoyed the Sentinel character in just this Dalek kind of archive of all these Daleks. And they're just about to be reactivated to fight this entity and give them more Daleks. But things don't really work well, do they? No. The entity is already there and it's infected the Sentinel of the Fifth Galaxy. And you just start seeing the Daleks turn and they become infected with the entity. That was so really cool. And then the battle between the Daleks was just really cool looking. It was very busy. It's a very busy scene, that's for sure. You know, Daleks and Daleks attacking each other. But I really enjoyed it. I really thought this was just a really good second episode, and I cannot wait to see what happens. Especially, you know, what's going to happen next. I want to see some problems that are going to develop between these Daleks. Strategist Dalek, still one of my favorite parts of this story. I'll be very fascinated to see where the story heads to next week. This was a really good story. I really recommend if you haven't watched the Daleks animated series yet. It's on YouTube. Definitely watch it. And if you have seen this episode, tell me your guys' thoughts on it in the comments below. It's a comic from Doctor Who magazine, Monstrous Beauty, which features the Ninth Doctor and Rose. Now, I will say there is one thing about this story. This was released as a supplement in Doctor Who 556. And then had its second part in 557, and then concluded in 558. And that's the one problem with Monstrous Beauty, is it's an expensive story for a less than 40-page comic, if you get the physical. I would recommend, if you just want to, read the story, I recommend getting the digital version if you can. It's about $5. I think it's a lot more affordable, or hopefully maybe they'll release a combined version of this in the future, because this does get a little pricey for just, one story. But I will say, I really enjoyed Monstrous Beauty. I really enjoyed the art style, actually. It's really, really, really good art. Definitely some really good art on it, and definitely just really does amazing. I really enjoyed, where is it, right? Just this battle scene in the first issue. It just highlights the amazing art to this story. This Monstrous Beauty does a really good job kind of exploring the Dark Times a little bit more. You also get to see kind of the early versions of Time Lords. And it's kind of interesting, this different type of Rassilon, before they kind of, develop who the Time Lords really are. Now, it has a really interesting idea of using vampires in the story. I kind of like it, and Rose gets kidnapped by these vampires at the end of the story, and as you can tell, she gets infected, becomes a vampire. Vampire Rose Tyler. I really also it was kind of really cool at the end of the third part, how they mentioned, what's next? Werewolves? Yeah, that's a good little foreshadowing. But yeah, Rose gets cured of vampirism. She's not going to always have that, that's for sure. I really enjoyed Monstrous Beauty. It's definitely, the price point of the story is probably the downside to this story. It's really expensive to complete this story, but it's a pretty decent story. I really like the exploration of the Dark Times. You can definitely see how the Doctor definitely knows he really shouldn't be there. And I kind of like how, Rose gets infected by this vampire and the Doctor has to stop that. Also very interesting to see a different version of Rassilon than we really are expected. And also to just see how the Time Lords were kind of before they become more established as Time Lords. But yeah, I would definitely recommend this story if you can find more affordable ways to read it. For another Time Lord Victorious story, though, this was pretty decent. Monstrous Beauty, pretty good story. Tell me your guys' thoughts if you have read this comic in the comments below, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, everyone.